Theme and variations. This movement format has some things in common with a type of composition that we heard earlier in this course, and I refer to the pasacalla, which is essentially a continuous variation. You may recall that a pasacalla of the sort that we heard in the aria from Purcell's Dido and Aeneas has a musical idea that is repeated throughout in the bass. And while this musical idea is being repeated in the bass, new melodies are invented above it. Although a theme and variations movement does not present the theme in full over and over again from the beginning to the end of a composition, it does make regular reference to the melody and presents it in varied forms throughout. Before we consider this movement format any further, please remember that theme is the proper name for the main idea of a classical movement format, just as subject is the proper name for the main musical idea of a fugue, and so on. You already know that sonata allegro format has 4 types of sections: an exposition, a development, a recapitulation, and a coda. And there are 3 types of sections in a theme and variations movement. Sections called the theme, various variations, and a coda at its end. When you think of one of these movement formats, one of the things that you should recall about it is how many different types of sections there are in it and what they are called. This will help you to distinguish one from the other. And in fact, 2 of the types of sections in this type of movement format are given right in its name: theme and variation. As we examine the typical plan of a movement of this sort, I'd like you to record what you know about it in the table that you see above your podcast screen. You can simply copy a table of that sort into your notes. And you are going to complete 3 lines of the table, one with its section letter name, another one with the name of its section, and finally one with the content of each of its sections. Now the form of this composition should look familiar to you. It is A prime, A double prime, etc., and here we have a coda at its end. We saw that the pasacalla had the plan A prime, A double prime, A triple prime, and here we see a work that has the same plan, but note that it has a coda at its end. As I've already noted, the names of 2 of the section types are given in the title: theme and variation. Notice that it begins with a theme, it follows with variation sections, and that the very last section of the work is the coda. Basically, theme, a set of variations after it, concluding with a coda. It's interesting to note that you already know the content of each one of these sections. For example, the first section is called the theme, and you know that the theme is the main musical idea of a classical multi-movement instrumental format. And that's exactly what we have here. The main musical idea is presented in it. Now the variation sections have names or letter names such as A prime, A double prime, A triple prime, etc. And you know that the name of a section that has a prime mark in it is a varied repetition of something that came before it. And in fact, the variations are simply varied repetitions of the theme. And you also know that the coda is a very free section of a work. We saw this in sonata allegro format, and it can contain whatever the composer wants. So as you can see, I've taught you absolutely nothing new here in terms of the content of these sections. You already know them, or you can actually figure them out by taking a look at their titles or the letter names for each of these sections. As you listen to a work of this sort, you begin to realize that there are two opposing principles in this format, and they, in fact, are related to the two principal types of sections contained in this format. That is, theme and variation. Indeed, the two principles operative in a movement format of this sort are identity and variety. The identity of the theme versus the variety that is demonstrated in the variations. Now, the composer wants you to know the theme if you don't already know it. And he usually makes an effort to get you to know the theme of the movement. It's usually presented for you in a very simple form at the beginning of the movement, and sections of it are repeated for clarity. Occasionally, you will hear the composer rehearse the theme at various intervals throughout the movement to make sure that you are aware of it. And this makes perfect sense, because if you don't know the theme, you can't fully appreciate all the trouble that the composer has gone to vary it for you. So take note of these principles when you hear a movement format of this sort.